Wake up with the news and information you can trust. Starting your day the right way with the Andy Griffin Show. This is News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU.
Hey, good morning, 908 on KDXU. Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, did something fun. A friend of mine, someone who works here even at Town Square, flew to Phoenix and went to Def Leppard, Journey, and Steve Miller Band. Yeah, triple concert. He said it lasted 6 hours. I'm like, dude, you went to a 6-hour concert? Like, I was on an airplane for 10 hours, and that was torture. I know the music was good, but 6-hour concert, holy smokes. Anyway, he said it was good. He said the anticipation, because Def Leppard has, they have a library of hundreds of songs, but they really have only like 4 or 5 that were big hits. And he said the anticipation, knowing that through the 6 hours that the biggest songs, Photograph and Pour Some Sugar, the big hits for Def Leppard, or at the very end, he's like, man, it was practically palpable. It was killing me. And again, come on, let's get to the end. Let's get to the good stuff. And anyway, yeah, he had, I don't know if you're supposed to take video at concerts, but I think everyone does. But he had some video he was showing me. That was during the 8 o'clock news break. I was walking around his office here, and he was like, here, watch this. I'm like, I kind of have to go back. I have a radio station I got to take care of. So, but anyway, yeah, Stockton, Bart got to go check out Def Leppard.
It was cool. Bart. Gotcha.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, he deserves it. He's been through a lot lately, so.
I've never had a job, and of course I chose radio as my profession. I've never had a job where I could go, I want to see so-and-so in concert. I think I'll fly there and go to it. But,
yeah, my childhood best friend who is actually waiting for his test results from the bar. He's testing to be a lawyer. His dad works as a security guard for SkyWest Airlines. And so
he gets free flights.
Yes. And
cool.
on occasion, they're just like, you know what? I feel like going to Thailand tomorrow. Or Rome or Japan. And every time I text him, like once a month, I'm like, hey, what are you up to? And he's like, oh, well, and like he doesn't answer until like 3 a.m. And that's how I know he's in a different country.
I'm in Paris.
Yeah, just casually drops that. It's like, do you know any Taiwanese or Thai? And he's like, no. Have you been there before? No. I'm like, how long have you been planning this trip? 2 days.
No, man.
Figures.
I had a friend who he was a sports writer. And, it's funny when you're in an industry. For instance, I was a sports writer for a long time, newspaper and things like that. And guys would come along and you could tell they were only halfway in. Like they really wanted to be a sports writer. But at some point they realized I'm pledging myself to a life of poverty as a writer, as a newspaper writer. and he was one of those guys that loved writing sports, but knew that there was never giving me any money. He was never going anywhere as far as financial. And so he, after a few years of sports writing, he took a job at an airline, and with the express purpose, although it did not pay more than sports writing, it offered the free flight privileges. And he did the same thing. He would go, him and his wife, and this was before they had kids. They have kids now and don't do it as much, but before he had kids, him and his wife would go, they'd like take the globe out and spin it around and put their finger down, and wherever it was, they'd be like, oh, let's fly there today for the weekend. It was like crazy. Now, having experienced that trip back from Europe just a couple of weeks ago, I can tell you, I would not do that. I don't want to fly anywhere that takes longer than 4 or 5 hours, man, because that 10-hour plane ride, it sucked. No, not interested. So, as those that have listened to the show may or may not know, I think most people know, I was a big Laura Branigan fan. Today is the 20-year anniversary of her death, and this was one of her songs underrated songs. There it is, yeah. This song was written by Michael Bolton. It turned into a #1 hit by Laura Branigan, but Michael Bolton, when people finally got over his rough voice and his rough looks, Michael Bolton actually went out and recorded a bunch of his own songs, including this one, and it was a hit again. So Laura Branigan had it a hit in the late 80s, and then Michael Bolton in the late 90s. A song called How Am I Supposed to Live Without You? And anyway, Laura Branigan ultimately passed away from a brain aneurysm. She was 52 years old, and it kind of makes me sad. But I love her music and always like to honor her. There was something else I picked up. So I saw this last week. Let me get to the right page here. And this video resonated with me. It's less than 3 minutes long. And but this is a guy by the name of Neil Ford. And this is kind of what I've been talking about on the program in recent weeks, in recent months even, is we get so caught up in, the extremists out there. The people trying to force their ideology, or I call it ideology, but it's, I guess, technically ideology. But I still believe this. The world, the United States and the world, it's still basic people trying to do the right thing most of the time. And, well, listen to Neil Ford talk about it.
People think we're more divided as a country now than we've been in a long time. I know it can seem that way, but when I was a little kid in 1969, the Vietnam War was tearing the country apart. And they'd shot John F. Kennedy, and they'd shot Bobby Kennedy. They'd shot Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And there was the Manson family and the Zodiac killer, and it just felt like the whole country lost its mind. My father, who'd grown up in the Depression, well, his faith in humanity was just at a low ebb. And the two of us that June were driving from L.A. to Oakland in our old 1960 Oldsmobile, and a water pump blew out south of Bakersfield. And so this was long before cell phones, so we were going to have to hoof it like 9 or 10 miles into town when this young cowboy pulls up in a flatbed and offers to tow us in. And all my dad had on him for money was this old Chevron gas card, so he kept telling this young fellow, I can't pay you. And the young cowboy's looking at him like, yeah, I wasn't going to charge you. So he rolls us into town, and this is a Sunday, so nothing's open. So he has to go get his mechanic friend to open up his garage, and my dad says, hey, listen, I don't have any money. And the mechanic says, we'll work something out. And then they all realize they don't have the actual parts, so now they got to go roust out the local auto parts store owner, and they bring him down. And my father's like, okay, we need to talk about how this is all going to get settled, because he just couldn't imagine anybody being this trusting about the money. So the cowboy says, look, if it make you feel better, I got a bunch of watermelons I need to get loaded onto my flatbed, and it's pretty hot work, and if you help me out, I'll pay for the part. So next thing you know, we're all unloading watermelons from inside a rail car. That's about 140 degrees. And 90 minutes later, we are soaked in sweat. And up rolls the car, just running like a top. And my dad says, I really don't know how to thank you, fellas, and for this good turn. And we're turning to go, and the mechanic gets this look on his face and says, whoa, where do you think you're going? And you could see on my father's face just all the fear and distrust come to the surface. And he's stiffened like a leopard. And the mechanic says, no. My wife's going to make us all Sunday dinner, and you and the boy can get a shower and a clean shirt, and it'll make the drive easier for all of us. So we sat down for a dinner of fried chicken from the chicken right over there, and corn on the cob from the corn right over there. Man, I got to tell you, we'll never have a meal that good ever again. And my dad didn't say maybe 3 words the whole drive, but when we got home, I got into bed. I was just about to turn off the light, and he stops in the doorway and he says to me, no matter what you see in the movies or on TV or you read in the papers, you listen to me. That's how people really are.
That's how people really are. I've been saying it for months now. Don't believe the people that are bombing things, and don't believe the all the weird ideologies that people are throwing your way. People really are, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong. You can make an argument that no, people aren't. But I really feel strongly that people really are good. I've been fortunate enough in the last few years to bathe in public, the public opportunities, things like going on a cruise or going on tours or spending time in cities and in towns and in the countryside and in the suburbia. And I'm telling you, that's how people really are. People are good. People have families. Moms and dads, they want their kids to grow up and be good, productive people. And they want people to treat each other fairly. And I love the movement lately. Stockton, I don't know if you've seen this. Lately, there's been a real push for everybody to buy local. Yeah, you can get whatever you want on Amazon you can get whatever you want ordering online, and you'll probably pay less, right? Especially you get Prime, you get your free delivery and everything. You probably pay less, but go to the guy who took a chance and opened a shop on the boulevard.
Absolutely.
Or opened up shop in some strip mall over there in Bloomington or over there in Santa Clara and say, you know what, this might be $1 more here, but I'm supporting a guy who maybe lives down the street from me or a guy who loves Southern Utah like I do.
Well, you're supporting small business, and that's one of the things that makes a healthy economy.
Absolutely. So, yeah. I really believe.
And it's just a good thing to do in general from a moral standpoint.
Yeah, I really believe people are good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. I don't know if y'all remember. I had a guy on my show, 6 months ago, 5, whatever it was, by the name of Gary Lee Price. He's an artist. And I still have a couple. He had some of this artwork he had made into little pins, and so I have a couple of them over here
that was 5
in my
months
studio.
ago.
It was a while ago, yeah.
Oh, man. Time flies.
But Gary Lee Price was excited about something called the Statue of Responsibility.
That's right. Yeah.
He'd already made the statue. It was a real statue made out of, I don't know, whatever they make their statues are.
But it hadn't been put up yet, right?
Well, no, the actual statue itself had, but the project that he was taking on and he had been invited to be a part of was the gigantic Statue of Responsibility that is supposed to go into the South Valley in Salt Lake. And it's funny, one of the news stations, about 2 weeks after we had Gary on the show, said, we're breaking the news. This is going to happen in Salt Lake. And I'm like, we talked about that 2 weeks ago, guys. So you can break whatever you want, but we already talked about it. But anyway, that's beside the point. So the Statue of Responsibility is supposed to be a 300-foot high statue. And it's basically two hands embrace in a handshake, and then they turn it vertical, and it's going to be this big tower, and they're going to have kind of a companion kind of building that it's attached to, and a tourist center around it, and a whole bunch of kind of grounds for people to go around and tour. And I love the idea. When it was first presented, when I think it was Channel 2 was talking about breaking the story that we'd already broken, but when Channel 2 was talking about it, they got varying reactions, and it was interesting. At first, people were like, "Whoa, you're going to put a giant tower in Salt Lake?" And no, we don't want that. But then people started to warm to the idea, and in fact, the two state congressmen from the city of Draper, which is where the gigantic statue is going to go up, at first didn't like it. Oh, don't do that to Draper. And then they were like, no, wait a minute. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's something that, I mean, if you think Salt Lake right now, you think Utah, you think, okay, you got the Salt Lake Temple, and you got, okay, they had the Olympics, lots of snow, what else? Mormons, I don't know. What do you think of when you think of Utah? Is there anything I'm missing here?
When I think of Utah, I
mean,
mean,
just generally, especially if you're from New York or you're from LA or whatever. Utah, what would come to mind if you thought of Utah?
Well, I guess skiing. Skiing would probably be the big thing.
Greatest snow on earth,
skiing,
right? It's on the license.
Well, yeah,
plate.
And then when you go to southern Utah, it's red dirt.
Yeah.
It's red dirt, and everyone's like, "Oh, that red dirt's so incredible," and I'm just like,
it is to other people. It is, but to us, we're used to it.
We're so used to it.
So this is a senator from Draper. He says, it's a beacon of freedom to the world. That's where millions of immigrants came through. He's talking about Statue of Liberty, and we're talking about a statue built here that will be a companion statue to the Statue of Liberty. He said it'll be public, open, transparent process where we get a lot of public feedback, and he said, we vote yes. It's cool. So where is the statue at today? First of all, I can point you to their website. They do have a website called statueofresponsibility.org. On the website, there's a cool video talking about the whole process and an artist rendering of what it will look like. It looks pretty amazing, actually. And, when he first announced it, I was excited about it, and then the excitement kind of cooled down a little. Like, well, that'd be nice, but Utah's known for Salt Lake Temple and for the red dirt and for the greatest snow on earth, and do we want it to be known for this gigantic weird statue with two shaking hands? I
don't know. North Dakota is known for a giant mountain with
exactly.
a bunch of old dudes chiseled into it.
but I got to tell you, I went to Europe, and I was impressed with how important things like that were to Europeans, statues. And gosh, the town of Lucerne there's this giant granite, not giant, there's this big granite rock in the middle of town. It's probably 200 feet high, and it's a natural formation. It wasn't man-made. So they had to build the city around this granite rock thing. So, but it's definitely not giant, but it's very big, a couple hundred feet high. And so instead of, trying to sandblast it or use dynamite and get rid of it or even, just ignore it, they actually commissioned an artist. This was incredible to me. They commissioned an artist to carve out of the center of the granite gigantic rock a lion, a lion about 3 times the size of a human. And so they created almost like a little alcove cave thing, and there's a reflecting pond in front of it, and then this gigantic lion representing King Wilhelm or something, the lion, some lion-hearted guy. Anyway, I don't know the history of it, but it's really, really cool. And why did they do it? Well, that's just it. They did it because it's cool. They did it because it's a neat piece of art. It's something that their city could be, one of the things the city could be known for. And so I've changed my attitude a little bit about that kind of thing, Stockton. I'm like, art is important. Getting people to stop and reflect, getting people to come and look at it and go, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, that's the Renaissance for you.
Yeah.
That's the whole method of the Renaissance. It's like, why on earth would some guy want to paint a bunch of pictures on the ceiling in a church? Why would that same person want to create a statue with anatomically correct parts?
Yeah.
Well, it's because he could, and because he wanted to, and because he thought it would be culturally significant.
Well, and so you're heavily involved in, or at least we're heavily involved in the arts and theater.
Of course.
And, when I was a young man, I was a sports guy. I had not much love for the theater, for that kind of art. I was like, yeah, whatever, But as I've gotten older, and I've been fortunate, and we've had the opportunity to get a lot of free tickets to a con and Shakespeare and things like that, and I've come to appreciate the art. First of all, the incredible talent that these people have, and the ability to do things that I can't. For instance, memorize a whole play.
Right.
Cyrano de Bergerac. The amount of stuff that dude has to memorize.
Yeah.
I mean, he has like 4 or 5 different, are they called soliloquies?
Soliloquies.
Yeah. 4 or 5 different ones during that play that are huge, that are long. And I'm like.
Yeah, multiple pages.
I couldn't do that. I remember in high school I had to memorize, I was in marching band, I had to memorize the marching band songs. And that was hard.
Yeah.
4 songs. And for those people to memorize that. So first of all, like I said, I come to appreciate the arts, not only for the great talent of the people involved with them, but also what they added to the human element.
Mm-hmm.
So Viktor Frankl is a famous author, wrote Man's Search for Meaning, among other great pieces of literature. And he is a big proponent of this statue of responsibility. Let me quote Frankl. He says, freedom threatens to degenerate into mere arbitrariness unless it is lived in terms of responsibleness. They should see to it that the Statue of Liberty on the Atlantic coast be supplemented by a statue of responsibility on the Pacific coast. And I thought Now, they tried to get this statue put up in California, but with all due respect to my friends from the Golden State, from California, California is a little bit of a granola box there. You got some nuts and some fruits and some and so anyway, California said, we don't want it. So guy by the name of, let's see if I can remember his, I think it's Bovish or something like that. I should know his name, but I can't remember it. And Gary Lee Price and Viktor Frankl, all are like, you know what? We're not going to get the coast, okay? Let's get close to the coast. Let's get a western state that really wants this. And so they proposed to have it built on the old prison site in Bluffdale Draper area in the south part of Salt Lake Valley. It was greeted with tempered enthusiasm. Some people were excited about it. Other people were like, I don't know. I don't know if I want that. But it seems to be gaining some momentum now.
Good.
It seems like public sentiment is turning toward, you know what, this is a good thing. Now, of course, there is the problem of money. They want the state of Utah to donate 5 acres to put it on, and really the state of Utah was really in a quandary on what to do with the former prison site because, what do we sell to a developer and put more houses in, or what do we do? So they're asking, hey, give us this and we'll put this up and it'll be a really cool thing. But the other thing is that the statue is going to cost about $3.5 million to build. And they're raising funds, private funds, but it's not going to come close. They're going to be, they might raise $1 million in private money. So they need a couple of million. And so Frankl and the folks behind the project are like, let's get some taxpayer money. Well,
no, that's that.
Yeah,
that's when it gets a little.
That makes people mad.
Yeah.
So right now the project is on hold while they raise the funds and while Utah decides whether or not they're going to give them the land. But I feel like, I think I've changed a little bit. When I first heard about it, I'm like, maybe. Now I'm like, yeah, let's do it. A large piece of art, and I mean large, 300 and something feet tall, but a large piece of art in the South Valley in Salt Lake seems like something pretty cool. One of the first things that helped change my mind was Cologne, Germany, getting off the bus in Cologne, Germany, and approaching the Cologne Cathedral, which is 500 and I forget the exact number, over 500 feet tall. I was blown away by this cathedral. I thought, you know what? And it was covered in, all the things you think about in the fantasy land. There were gargoyles and statues, and everything about it was medieval and wonderful and beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, let's make something beautiful and wonderful right here in Utah. So hopefully it happened. We have some other things we want to talk about later on in the program. Right now, we do need to get a weather break in, so let's do this. I have 2 tickets right now to Beauty and the Beast in Hurricane. If you would like to go catch a play, Beauty and the Beast in Hurricane. Now, it closes in, I think it's 2 weeks, maybe a week from Saturday, something like that. So you need to get there soon. I've gotten reports this is a really cool play, and they're doing a really fantastic job. It is Beauty and the Beast presented by the Hurricane Theatrical. Give me a call right now, 673-5890. I've got 2 tickets for you to Beauty and the Beast, presented by Hurricane Theatrical, and we'll give those away right now.
Wake up with the news and information you can trust. This is the Andy Griffin Show on News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU, Southern Utah's News Talk leader.
Hey, welcome back. 9:35 on KDXU. Appreciate you being here today. It's a weird political race going on with Kamala and Trump, but Kamala with Walz, and Walz is the name of her vice president running mate guy. But it's just basically everything that Kamala has said in the last 3.5 years, she's denying it all. Even though we actually have actual video clips of her saying all these things. She's like, oh, no, I didn't say that. Well, I didn't mean it. I changed my mind. Guess we're allowed to change our mind. Did she really? Or is she just saying what we want to hear? Interesting. I was reading this cool story by Francisco Zuniga is his name. And he was talking about a guy who... They diagnosed this guy with something called, let's see if I can find the, integrity dysphoria. integrity dysphoria. Now, what is that? This was in the journal, medical journal Clinical Case Reports. Said this 20-year-old man, and they're going to leave his name out of it, which is understandable. 20-year-old man in the United States had requested amputation of the fourth and fifth fingers in his left hand. There was nothing wrong with the digits. He simply believed that they were bad for him. Doctors diagnosed the patient with that body integrity dysphoria, a belief that a certain body part does not belong. Because the patient was distressed, a team of Canadian medical professionals, I said it was the United States, it's actually Canada, decided the best course of action was to go ahead and grant the guy's request and amputate the ring finger and pinky finger on his left hand. This young man adopted a false sense of reality, his body image, and sought security in a mutilated body instead of accepting the uncertainty of living with a body that he might not like, but is still his by nature. Very bizarre case. Now, this author, Zuniga, says, in contrast, husband and father Corey Comparatori died shielding his wife and two daughters from gunfire at former President Trump's Pennsylvania campaign rally on July 13th. In an instant, Comparatori was confronted by the precariousness of life. He accepted it and saved his family. That one act made his life authentic and free. Fear of precariousness has robbed us of the ability to transcend our own individual existences. We live as if there were nothing more than momentary experiences. The good news is that when we allow ourselves the courage to face what we fear most, dread, uncertainty, we begin to truly live our lives. I don't know if you heard the first part of that, Stockton. I know you were taking care of some business, but a guy decided his ring finger and his pinky finger on his left hand were unnecessary, and asked doctors to amputate them. When he persisted, even though he was prescribed with a psychological order called integrity, body integrity dysphoria, he insisted. He had the money. He paid for the surgery and had his two fingers removed on his left hand. It's a strange deal. Yeah. Anymore, changing your body, if you have the money, has become a fairly common thing. And believe it or not, the state of Utah, has more plastic surgery operations per capita than any other state in the United States of America.
Granted, a lot of those are probably for stuff like breast cancer and stuff like that. Right. But I get what you're saying, though. A lot of it is for cosmetic surgery, that type of thing.
Yeah, I recently have a friend of a friend, and not someone I'm going to release their name, and I'm not going to say any more about how I know them, but who went in and had a couple of elective surgeries. They had to do, they involved the augmentation of the female breast area and the augmentation of some layers of fat they wanted removed. And I don't know. I thought about it, and I just thought, I don't know why, but years ago, my sister-in-law's husband had, I don't know what the official term is, and you probably know better than I do, but he actually had surgery to remove fat. I don't know if that's a tummy tuck or what. Remove fat from his stomach. And back then, now this would have been like the early 90s, so I don't know, maybe it's changed, but the recovery was incredibly painful.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't hardly do anything for himself for like 2 weeks. I mean, he was in a lot of pain because they basically cut you open and cut out a bunch of fat and closed you back up. And he couldn't bend, he couldn't lift. Going to the bathroom hurt incredibly, and I just, I don't know. Now you in your career as an actor have had to change your body shape. You've had to change your look. You've had to change all kinds of things. And yet you come back to who you are, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Probably the biggest change I had to make for a show was back in 2017. I had to lose a lot of weight, but I also had to grow up my hair, and I also had to shave my entire body.
Shave your entire body.
Yes, because the show was Peter and the Starcatcher, which is a prequel to Peter Pan.
Okay.
And I actually played Peter, but he's actually not called Peter in the show. He's just called Boy. So
you had to play a little boy.
Yes, but it's artistically done so that everyone is played by adults, but there's ways to get past that. And one of those things, of course, is through the way you portray your personality in the show. Mm-hmm. In this case, being an immature little boy who is, who hates adults and, all that stuff, hates grown-ups and doesn't want to grow up.
And had no body hair.
And that's another way, is that you have torn up hair, your hair is, you have torn up clothes, your hair is a mess, you put conditioner through it to make it as greasy as possible, you get as long as possible, as the longest I ever grew out my hair. And another thing is, since you can see parts of the skin through the clothes, you have to, make sure there's no hair, because if it's a kid,
not going to have any hair.
Yeah, because you want to, even though it's an adult playing, you still want to have some sense of disbelief,
So was it hard for you to? But I mean, you read about these actors. Charlize Theron became. I mean, it's an incredibly gorgeous woman.
Yes,
she played the character in the movie Monster. That was this kind of dumpy looking serial killer woman.
Yeah.
And she had to gain weight. She had to, she did all kinds of things to transform herself. And I'm just like, man, I know you're playing a role, but it's got to be so hard on your body to gain or lose weight in such a rapid manner. Was it worth it? Is it worth it?
Yeah. I mean, she did get, if I remember right, she
got an Academy Award.
Yeah, she got an Academy Award for that. But, I mean, that's nice to put on a resume, but how much money do you actually get from that? And is that really worth in the end? Another thing is Christian Bale. Christian Bale he's very well known for doing this kind of thing. I forget which show it was, but there was one where he essentially lost, I think, around 100 pounds. And he was this skinny as a stick. You could see his rib cage, all for the role. And he didn't get an Academy Award for that, I'll tell you that much.
Later on, he came out as the ultra buff Batman, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, wow, that's wild.
I think, actually, if I remember right, that role where he had to get super skinny was in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, which means he was buff, man. And then he lost the weight, and they had to regain it for Dark Knight. Wow. Yeah.
You hope these people that do these extreme things, it doesn't affect their health long term. It seems like it would, and you say, well, that's not any different than someone who's taking Ozempic or something right now and losing weight. And if they ever go off it, all that weight's going to come right back, right? And I hope that that's the only effect. I read a thing yesterday. Actually, my wife read it to me. We were having story time together. Anyway, about, I think Zepbound is another one of those weight loss things. Supposed to be really good. It really, I mean, you lose weight, no doubt about it. But somebody had commented, everyone I know is on this. She's a nurse. And she says, I've got people that are on these that are coming in with some pretty troubling symptoms. Zepbound is, and one of the things, the reason that they're just finding these things out is, these came out without long-term studies. But she said, yeah, we're getting people coming. It turns out Zepbound may be causing throat cancer or thyroid cancer.
Oh, boy.
People are coming in with collapsed esophagus or with thyroid problems. The thyroid is this little organ behind your throat that helps you process. Anyway, and she said it's really troubling because what's happened is these drugs came out so quickly and America loves them. Oh man, they love you. I mean, I would wager I don't know anyone who doesn't know someone on it. You know what I'm saying? I'll bet you do. I know I do. I have relatives that are on it.
I have members of my immediate family that were on it for a while, and then they actually quit it, not because of symptoms, just because it was too expensive.
It is expensive.
And but no, the same goes for, I mean, Dr. Blodgett even said so on one of your shows earlier about how, I mean, this was months ago, but he was saying how, I mean, yeah, these are great in the short term, but we have no idea what these long-term studies are going to be like. And that's kind of what I'm waiting for if I ever get into that sort of situation where I should.
Yeah, I could lose some pounds for sure.
Yeah, and taking a shot a week sounds nice on paper, but then, I mean, you stop it and you immediately get it back, sometimes even worse.
Well, here's the question that I have. Suppose we're just going to take a fictitious Jane. Say Jane is 5'5" and 275. So pretty big, right? Yeah. The evidence is clear with someone who has that kind of obesity. They are going to, for sure, 100% for sure, going to have high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They're going to have a buildup around their heart disease.
They might have diabetes.
They're going to have problems, doing things. They won't be able to walk a block or two without, collapsing basically. And so you start thinking, okay, I know these things are for sure going to happen to me if I stay obese, if I stay morbidly obese, if I am fat like this. Then you go, okay, if I take these pills, provided you can afford them, right? Or not these pills, these shots. If I take these shots, I will lose the weight, and that will probably eliminate most of this other stuff that we're talking about, the heart disease and high blood, diabetes, etc. I might get cancer from it, but we don't know for sure yet. Yeah. I might screw up my digestive system somewhat, but we don't know for sure. I might get, who knows what else, what other symptoms are going to, or what.
Well, it's like one of those, it's one of those, what are those called? Just list of side effects that you hear at the end of an infomercial for I don't know why this was the first one that came to mind, but like Viagra, you hear that. Just, you see the elderly couple on the swing set together, and you see in
the bathtubs outside.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know any old people that are going to be bathtubs.
You see them doing that, and then while they're doing all that, you just hear this rapid fire list of all these side effects, and meanwhile you're watching these people all happy and stuff like that, and you're hearing stuff as like death, diarrhea, it's just like.
Well, so the point I was making, Stockton, is it worth?
Does the risk outweigh the reward?
Yeah, and I don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
It depends on the person, man.
I mean, I kind of almost want to go, it is worth it. For someone, Jane, our fictitious Jane, who is probably 100 to 150 pounds overweight, I would say, it is worth it to her. If she can afford it.
Well, and if you really want to go a little morbid with it, you could think of it like this. Would you rather die from cancer later in life, or would you die earlier in life from
heart disease?
From heart disease,
diabetes,
or like a blood clot or something like that that was resulted from you being overweight. Like that's
a tough ethical question.
It is. It's a really tough one.
Gosh, that's something to think about, though. Like if I. And I think there's probably this point, right? How overweight are you? How likely are you to get these things that being overweight come with? And the answer probably lies in that right there. If you're heavy enough that overweight is going to kill you, maybe you should be taking those pills if you can afford it, or those shots. Maybe you should. Maybe it's worth it.
It's a serious thing to consider.
Yeah, consult your doctor, not me. We'll be right back.
All the latest news, weather, traffic, and sports, just like you like them. You're waking up with the Andy Griffin Show on News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU, Southern Utah's news talk leader.
Welcome back, 9:52 on KDXU. I'm Andy. Stockton Myers is here as well, hanging out with us. What's up, Stockton? Doing all right, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good, all right.
I was just actually looking up all that talk about obesity and stuff like that got me looking up to see if I was actually in the obese category. I'm not. Which I knew I wasn't, but I was just like, what is the obese category for a 5'9" male? And
I actually have a problem with some of their scales, like the BMI and stuff, because I have very thick and dense bones. I'm a large bone human.
Yeah, it doesn't take into account.
And so when I was 255, I was skinny. I mean, you ask anybody, I see pictures of me and I'm like, wow, that dude needs to gain some weight.
And you're 6'4", right?
I'm 6'5", 6'4" and a half. Yeah. And yet then at 255, the BMI and the obesity scale, I wasn't obese, I was fat, overweight or whatever the category is right before obese. And I was like, dude, I am not overweight. There's no way. And I weigh, a lot more than that now, and I definitely need to lose weight. But I just, those scales to me are just like, come on, guys. There needs to be a better way.
Well, yeah, and it just depends on the person. Just having this general scale is just, you need to actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do like to be weighing kilograms though, because they're about because
the number looks smaller.
They're about a third. Yeah, they're about a third of the pounds. I'm like, hey, you're 170 kilograms. I'm 170. That's pretty cool. I've been 170 since I was in 9th grade. Cool. Anyway, we are going to give away not today, but this week tickets to Anastasia. Now the reviews from Tuacahn about Anastasia are. I think the reviews I've heard are wow, amazing, and incredible. Those are three of the reviews
I've heard stellar.
So stellar, there you go. That's even better than wow, incredible, and amazing. Well, I don't know if it's better, but it's right there with them. So I have 4 tickets. Not now. Don't call now. I'm not giving them away right now, but I do have 4 tickets to Anastasia we're going to give away this week. It ends, I think, October 1st or something like that. So you have about a month or so, month and a half.
This whole Tuacahn season has been kind of bonkers.
Yeah. My favorite that I've seen so far was the Ring of Fire indoors. The Johnny Cash show was amazing. And again, I go back to, I don't know how you do it, Stockton, but you actors that can memorize what you memorize. The guy that played Johnny Cash in that movie or in that play, not only had to memorize all the dialogue, which there was plenty, he had to memorize something like 32 songs or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of those songs is "I've Been Everywhere."
Which names 50 different cities or something?
I've had to do something similar in the past. I mean, there's a very famous patter song. Patter song in opera is just essentially really fast lyrical songs. And arguably the most famous one is I am the very model of a modern major general.
Oh yeah, I remember that
from Pirates of Penzance, and I still have that memorized to this day.
Do they ever go away when you memorize things like that? I mean, I'm sure some do. Right? You cram for a test.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't recite a single line from a script that I've memorized, but I can. For I am the very model of a modern major general. Because
I'm going to ask you not to sing.
Yeah, don't do it because I don't want to be tested right now. But no, it's just because that was probably one of the songs that I put the most effort into.
Yeah,
and so just trained my mind to do the most of that. And there's a song from a cartoon show called Animaniacs from the 90s, and they have a song called "Nations of the World."
Oh,
and it's a song comprising entirely.
I kind of remember that. Yeah,
it's a song comprised entirely of every nation of the world at that point in the 90s. And
there were a lot of Kazakhstan type countries back then, huh?
Oh yeah, and I did that one, but I actually didn't memorize it. I cheated. But even that I remember a little bit of, just because of how much I put into it.
We only have a couple of minutes left. I did want to get to this. How do you feel about potty mouths? And I'm not asking Stockton, I'm asking you out there, the swear words. I don't know if any of you have ever had the occasion where you had to say something. And maybe you're somebody that likes cussing. You integrate it as part of your vocabulary. I do not. I've never, I don't cuss. My dad and mom didn't cuss. My mom only occasionally would use a word occasionally for emphasis, and usually involved playing tennis or something like that. Anyway, but so I found, I did a study, and you can find a story that's more in-depth story on 890kdxu.com about potty mouths, about what states, what countries, as a matter, and what states are the ones most likely you're going to find to have swear words. The United States, by the way, is number 1 in the world. Congratulations, USA. You have the worst potty mouths in the world.
Yep.
But specific parts of the USA are particularly cussy, if you will. Maryland is number 1 in the U.S. in swearing. Maryland, believe it or not. Now, Maryland is right next to Washington, D.C. D.C. was not part of the study, but I'm guessing there was some spill over there. I'm just saying. Also, Louisiana was up there, and Georgia. So the Southeast, and Southeast in general, there were a lot of swear words in the Southeast. But there was, I remember years ago, and I only have a minute left now, but years ago I had a job, and it was one of the, I was working in a parts store. It wasn't auto parts, it was industrial parts, but there was some very colorful language that was I was used in the warehouse, and I actually said something to one of the guys. I'm like, "Hey, would you not, maybe use the F word so much? It kind of bothers me." And there's the story. People are going to respect you more when you do that. I didn't feel that from him. I kind of got the what a wuss, kind of feeling from him. I also, another job I had, they like to use the Lord's name in vain, which really bothers me. And I just said something about that. I said, well, she wouldn't do that. And one time somebody used Jesus Christ, used his name in vain. And I said, why are you blaming him? He didn't do it. You did it. And they're like, yeah, they didn't have a good answer. But Utah, by the way, there were 5 states less sweary than Utah. So we were 45th. 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we were 45th in the nation in cussing. The number one, this is sad to me, the number one most used swear word in the United States. Well, I'm not going to say the word, but it starts with the letter F.
No.
That's sad. Well, we're out of time. Stockton, thanks for your help today. Good to talk to you.
Of course.
This is the Andy Griffin Show on KDXU. I love being with you every day, 9 o'clock. Tune in tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.